Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome to the Princeton Council meeting of July 10th, 2017. Madam Clerk, have we met the noticing requirements for this
Yes,
meeting?
Mayor.
And please call the roll.
Ms. Howard. Here. Mr. Liverman.
Here.
Mr. Miller. Here. Ms. Miller.
Here.
Ms. Butler. Here. Mr. Quinn. Mayor Lampert.
Okay, and now please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, we're going to start our meeting tonight with an award of recognition, and this is a new tradition that Council started about a year ago, and I'd like to turn things over to Ms. Howard to present tonight's award.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm really thrilled that tonight we get to honor Arm in Arm, which is an incredible partner in our community here in Princeton and more broadly in Mercer County. And we're very fortunate to have some critical members of that community here in the audience joining us. We have Cecilia Avila, who runs the Princeton office of Arm in Arm, and Gary Pattison, who is the former board chair and volunteer extraordinaire in town, whom we know well. And Cecilia, anybody else that I should recognize? Many people know Cynthia Mendez, who used to be our Human Services Director. She also now works at Arm in Arm. So Princeton has many connections to Arm in Arm, and some of you may remember it by its previous name, the Trenton Crisis Ministry. So I have just a few facts I wanted to say about the tremendous work Arm in Arm does that reminds us of the needs in our community. I'll start by talking countywide. Over 40,000 residents live daily with the effects of poverty or very low incomes, and that includes food insecurity and housing stability. And that's where Arm in Arm plays such a critical role. They serve about over 11,000 residents of all ages in the county. They provided over 400,000 pounds of food last year. And had visits by over 21,000 customers to those food pantries. About 10% of the households they serve are from the Princeton site that Cecilia runs. And that can be people who are coming in every month for food or people seeking financial support to stabilize their housing. The Princeton site is open Mondays through Thursdays in the afternoons, and they stay open late on Tuesdays to accommodate the work and family schedules of the people they serve. Just this year, they've already had almost 1,000 visits to the Princeton pantry. So just, an amazing and very sad reminder of how much that need is. And they, last year, an average of 126 children received food services and support through the Princeton pantry every month, 126 kids. And fortunately, we have many people in our community who are committed to helping, and they have tremendous volunteer support and are committed to serving in Princeton, and we're so glad to have you here, and that's why we're so honored. I think, Mayor, am I allowed to go down and hand it to him to honor the work that Arm in Arm does? I want to note that September will mark the end of the first year, I think, under the new name. And so we're glad to be able to honor you sort of you've been around, I think, almost 50 years, is that right? But you're like a newborn with the new name. And so I'm glad that we're able to honor you. So I'm going to come down, and if Gary and Cecilia can come up, I'll give you the honor.
Really appreciate. Thank you very much. Arm in Arm works very hard for the support of all of you. If we work together, as our name says,
The people at home can hear you.
as our name says, September 20, we are just still in the transition because sometimes our clients recognize a lot of crisis ministry. So all the time we have to be clarifying. We are Arm in Arm sometimes. Sometimes they don't know what the name means. So we tell them, as we have two arms, our name also has two arms, and it's also to show our appreciation to everyone who's supporting our hard work. As Heather said, we are serving any day, 15 families comes to the food pantry here. We are at 61 Nassau Street. You are more than welcome to visit us, and also to, why not, set up a food drive. Always is welcome. Thank you very much for this recognition. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for, on behalf of everybody on council, Heather Howard said it very well, but we want to thank you for your hard work and everything that you do for our community. We have an announcement and a welcoming tonight, and I'd like to invite up Bob Gregory, our Emergency Management Director, to introduce Joe Novak.
Thank you, Mayor. With great pleasure, I'd like to introduce everyone to Joe Novak. And before I ask Joe to come up, a couple of things. First, in the usual form of emergency services, right, there was an unfortunate house fire last night out in Pennington. So Joe has been up since probably 2 o'clock this morning for his first day on the job. And he made it today and made it through a busy day. So I want to thank him for that, and just remind everybody of the craziness of our schedule sometimes. But we're pleased to have Joe. He brings over 20 years experience in fire inspection. He comes from Montgomery, where he was an inspector for 15 years doing fire inspection, fire subcode, and zoning work. And he's recently been with Princeton University in site protection, and his job basically entailed dealing with fire safety systems, sprinkler systems, alarm systems. So he brings a wealth of knowledge and experience. And Joe has over 20 years in the fire department. He's currently chief of Hopewell Fire Department, and he's also a member of our associate program, as he took part in that as a university employee. So he's well entrenched in the community here, being a Mercer County resident his whole life, and we're happy to have him, and I look forward to working with him. And I'd also just like to thank the council for the opportunity to have Joe meet everybody, and to thank his family for coming out, and also his extended family. There's a lot of Hopewell firefighters here tonight, as well as our Princeton Fire Department and Fire Inspection Bureau. So thank you all for coming out to show your support for Joe. So Joe, with no further ado, our new fire official, Joe Novak.
Well, I'd like to first thank Mark and Bob and you all for giving me the opportunity to succeed at this job. And I really, I'm going to do you proud, I promise. You know, I think that I've said it over and over again that I think fire safety. Hi, gorgeous.
That's an important endorsement.
I'll give you your $20 later. All right. That I think fire safety is extremely important, not only to the business owners and the community, but the fire department as well. So I look forward to partnering with the fire department and everybody just to make the town as fire safe as it can be and make that task as painless as possible. Sorry, that's the 2 hours of sleep we were just talking about. You want to talk? Go ahead. So again, thank you all for the opportunity. I look forward to working with you guys. Thanks for the support. My Hopewell family and my immediate family, thank you for coming tonight. And look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you need
And
a
is there a
resolution?
motion to approve Resolution 17208?
So moved.
Which is authorizing the appointment of fire official Joe Novak. It's been moved by Ms. Butler and seconded by Ms. Krummeller. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you.
And you all are welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but you don't have to either. So I just would ask if you want to have conversations that you can go all the way out into the hallway and close the doors so we can still hear ourselves talking. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and now we're going to move on to comments from the public for items that are not already on the agenda. So if there's anybody here who'd like to speak to something that's not already on the agenda, I invite you up to the microphone.
I know I've already been told no, but I'm going to just speak in favor of the work that's being done, that has been being done for a number of years by the developmentally disabled from the ARC in our cleaning service within your offices. And I understand that's going to end. And I was disappointed and hoping that this could be worked out in a way that would be more satisfactory. I mean, if they felt that the supervision from the ARC was not good enough, the ARC is more than willing to, turn over that supervision to someone here so that people who've been feeling worthwhile as a result of having some sort of employment can still have that feeling of being worthwhile. Just putting it out there for you. And I'm sorry I didn't get to reach a number of you on the council until the last minute. But thank you. If you'd like to ask me any questions, I'll try.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else who want to, are you, oh, and Mary Ellen, did you state your name for the record too?
I may not have. It's Mary Ellen Marino, M-A-R-I-N-O, 3 words. We'll take care of that. I'm at 9 Horner Lane in Princeton.
Okay, thank you.
It was Dan Rappaport that advised me of this, and then I spoke to Steve Cook of the ARC. And Steve Cook thought perhaps it was a cost of ARC supervision that could be removed by having, whoever it is in in your offices provide that supervision under their, being paid for it, and still have the cleaning work done by ARC residents. I stand here because I have a sister who's mentally handicapped. My father was the founder of the ARC in Bergen, Essex, when it first began. He was the first state chairman, first national chairman, and I have, as I said, I have a sister myself. She's not too good at cleaning. She's very good at listening to classical music. But I just wanted to offer that as a possible suggestion that wouldn't cost the township.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak on anything not on the agenda? Okay, seeing no one, I'll close public comment and we'll move on to reports. Ms. Howard, any
Yes.
reports?
Although it may seem like summer is just getting underway, the Human Services Department has started the back-to-school backpack drive. So I know, it's never fun when that starts, but it's a really important opportunity for people to contribute backpacks and school supplies for local kids in need, and they're going to be receiving donations up until August 4th. Information is available on the Princeton website. Also, from a public safety perspective, just to update everyone on our continuing process to make sure we have enough police officers. We should, is it at the next meeting, Mayor, or the meeting after that, hopefully? Have a resolution for hiring. Shortly, we'll be recommending for hiring some new police officers. And just a quick bit of background that we've been over a number of times, but context, we're currently at 49 sworn officers, and we have 3 retirements expected before the end of the year and 11 retirements likely in the next several years, next 3 years. So we've been trying to figure out how to manage that hiring, and we also have a recruitment list that expires at the end of this calendar year. So if you don't hire from that list, you have to start the whole process again. So the chief this year has been working, going back to that list, and is recommending 5 individuals for hiring, which the Public Safety Committee interviewed and felt enthusiastic about. So that would be the recommendation to hire 5 new officers. Several of them have to go to the academy, as is always the case, that they don't always start immediately, but there's a new class, academy class starting in August, so that must be why it's the next meeting, right? So that they could start at the new academy class in August. And so that 5 allows us to aim for, I think the chief would say 49 to 52, depending on who's sick and who's around. And it allows us to at least have have people in the pipeline for these anticipated retirements. Although I think he would want me to say, were he here, that he's probably going to recommend that we start the process again in 2018, given these 11 retirements that could happen in the next couple of years. But that process we know takes about a year. So that's, even if we authorize it to begin next year, it would be a year in the making. So this is the process. This hiring of 5 now is to ensure that we have the pipeline. Several will be able to start, which is nice, come from other forces and have been through training. But several do need to go to the academy. And my colleagues want to add anything or on that, or that was my last.
Heather, you might want to mention very briefly the fact that we are looking for crossing guards on a continuing basis.
Yes, we definitely have a shortage of crossing guards, also because of retirements, and so the police department, which manages that service, is looking for candidates. Thank you, Bernie.
Could I ask a follow-up question? What is the number of targeted for the police force post-consolidation? Was it 51 or 53? I mean, are we going to have that, aren't we going to be over that if we hire 5 and we've got 49 now, we'll be up at...
No, we're at 49 and we're losing 3 before the end of the year.
Oh, we are losing 3.
That we have 3 this year and then 11 with the next couple of years. So this is really, this keeps us, our head above water, and then we need to start again, unfortunately, the treading.
Did you want to say anything about the backpack drive for Human Services? She did. Oh, you did? I'm
Missed
sorry.
my
I
lo-
was,
you missed my-
I was talking to Ms. Krummeller. and
You missed
I'm
my
sorry.
lamentation about summer going too quickly, and yes.
Thank you.
No reports.
Yeah, I will. The planning board had its a status report on the neighborhood initiative, neighborhood character zoning initiative. That's the official name for it. And it was our consultants kind of led a discussion, and we're going to be introducing a few of the ordinances that we tabled in the last year, I think, and then we're also, the consensus of the planning board was to focus on zoning, looking at changing some zones to encourage flats, flats and accessory units. Right now, the borough and the township both allow them, and so we want to, harmonize that somehow, and also, I think, perhaps look at some of the requirements to make it easier as a way to help encourage infill development that sometimes can create more affordable housing. And we've had a lot of requests on that. And then also looking at allowing duplexes, because we've been seeing a lot of subdivisions where the houses are huge, and when they're replacing smaller houses, we're losing affordability. And so the thought is, if we allow duplexes, it might provide some incentive to provide some more affordable, smaller houses.
If I ask a quick question, Jenny, what about the? Is it possible to put on there? I'd love to see the garage forward ordinance, because I've just in my own neighborhood. Anybody in Riverside will tell you that that's one that's. Since we declined to take that up, there's one that's already started being built with an aggressive garage in front of the house, and it's got to be a 4,000 square foot house. So
yeah,
I
would love to look at that too, because I agree with you. I think I was in favor of going forward with that. So
I'd like to bring that. I'd like to suggest.
you'd like to look at it again, maybe a different ordinance.
I would just bring it up. I don't think we took a vote, actually.
Right. So one of the things that the planning board has talked about, or the initiative group has talked about, is how do we make these changes that are more neighborhood sensitive, and if we're talking about preserving each neighborhood, and if you go around town, there are neighborhoods where there are a lot of garages already, and so one idea would be to, one of the ordinances we did pass was about prevailing setbacks, and so to have that similar thought where you could have a blanket ordinance, but it would be if a certain percentage of the homes didn't have garages facing front, then you would keep that as a restriction for your neighborhood, but it wouldn't necessarily be blanket. The other option that we had talked about was that the garage could take up a certain percentage of the frontage, perhaps. So there's a couple ideas floating around, but that was one that we've heard on and off support for. We had a fairly good turnout at that planning board
Yeah.
meeting. I attended as well. And another ordinance we heard a lot of support for was the putting in a height limit, both for the structure itself and then also put in stricter provisions about how much fill you can bring in, because a lot of the new homes we're seeing, there's truckloads of dirt that come in first, and so there's the mound that's built and then the house on top. So getting some control over how much you can build the hill.
Right, and down the road, it's a harder job, and that's to look at the town and look at individual neighborhoods and try to tailor some of the zoning to individual neighborhoods, and that's why I think the garage, the solution to look at, to just have like a formula might be a good idea.
Right, we should go back and check whether we voted on that garage issue or not.
No, I don't think we
You
did.
don't think we did?
No,
I
I
didn't
know that you
think it-
said, no, I don't think we did, and I think that you
Well,
said.
we should just double
Yeah,
check,
and I think
because
that
there was
you had
not-
sent information to us after that, after we discussed it, you had forwarded information which was extremely informative, after we discussed it.
So maybe pending is your point. I mean, it
Yeah.
may be out there.
Yeah.
Ms. Butler?
Oh, you finished? Okay, everybody get out your pencils and paper, because I have a number of dates that I'd like to share. Everybody, half-sheet quiz? My mic is on. Just talking into it? Okay. Free community concerts, Saturday, July 15th and Saturday, July 22nd at the CP North Amphitheater. It's the partnership between the Rec Department and Blue Curtain. Both concerts begin at 7 p.m. On 7/15, we have Mystic Boa and Sasha Masakowski. And on 7/22, it's Bet Seda and Sammy Figueroa. So, free concert. Lance, I know you'll be there.
I will go out of town those 2 days, so thank you so much.
Too noisy.
I'm just kidding, I'll be there.
We are also hosting the Dive Championship on July 19th and 20th. So those will be busy days at the pool, and I think they've arranged for off-site parking, but just be forewarned. We'll be hosting the swim championships at the CP pool on the 24th and 25th. Community Night Out will be on August 1st from 5 to 8 at the CP pool. And the Kids Aquathon will be held on Sunday, August 20th at the pool. Summer camp programs are underway and run through August 11th. We have a total of 23 camps that include plus or minus 700 campers and about 50 staff members. The teen travel camp will make 33 individual day trips over the course of 8 weeks, spanning 5 states and including a 3-day, 2-night trip to Busch Gardens in Virginia. And we're hoping that we will have the swimming pool open one weekend post Labor Day, which would be the weekend of September 9th and 10th, weather permitting, and presumably if we can staff it. And we'll post hours of operation as that all gets finalized.
Terrific, thank you. I just have a couple reports. The first is, if everybody remembers Rapid Notify, that's been the system the town has been using for past 5 years or so. We're switching over to a new platform, or we've switched over to a new platform. This is for the reverse 911 and other, you can add information to it, so it's not just to landlines. So the new system adds more flexibility for residents. So we're encouraging everybody to go onto the municipal website, princetonnj.gov, and you can sign up to add your cell phone if you prefer to get text alerts, or you can add your email if you prefer to get email alerts, and you can ask to be notified on all of your devices, on none of your devices, on only some of them. So these are for announcements about when there's an impending storm and the town wants to get information out about emergency things. Yeah, when we have leaf pickup in your neighborhood, if there's a change to the recycling schedule, and other ways that the town needs to contact you. So we're trying to encourage everybody. The other downside is that everybody who signed up with their cell phone numbers with Rapid Notify were not able to port those into the new system. And so even if you've already signed up with your cell phone number, we need folks to do it again with this new system. And again, that's on the princetonnj.gov website under emergency alerts. There's another system that's still staying in place, and that's the Nixle system, and that's for when the police are sending out information about road closures and other police announcements, and that's still staying the same and separate. And then also there's been a group, council, President Kremeller and myself, working with members of staff on a new website. And so we are getting pretty close to choosing a vendor. We heard some presentations last week or the week before, and we're all really excited about what the new website has the potential to be. So we'll be keeping everybody up to date as that process moves forward.
Now, I'm sorry, Joe.
Go ahead.
Is the cost down? I know last time we looked at websites, the cost was like way up over the sky.
Right.
It's pretty reasonable now. I'm assuming it's come down.
What was high?
The cost?
The cost. He was
Cost.
asking about the cost of a new website.
Of the new website?
It's reasonable.
Oh, good.
It's
Okay.
not.
Perfect.
No, it's not as high as I thought it would be.
Perfect.
Right.
It's higher than
The current
the one
system.
that didn't work out.
Oh,
So are we starting from scratch?
And then I know Mr. DeShield is going to have more about the 206 bridge closure, but I did want to thank our municipal staff for their response on Monday when Thursday when the work started. The state maybe didn't have all the signs up that we were expecting to have up with the detour, and municipal staff really rose to the occasion. It was all hands on deck. They went out there and they made sure the signs were up, and I know the traffic was bad that day. This is a big project. It's going to be disruptive, but I do want to thank engineering, police, public works for really helping to control what would have been a complete and total disaster. So thank you. And Mr. DeShield, any reports?
Yes. I'd like to provide you a report, one on a number of traffic issues throughout the community, one being a notice at the Harrison Street Bridge. Mercer County will be closing that bridge on Saturday, July 15th. That's anticipated. It may change. We'll have a final notice by tomorrow. That is expected to close at 7 a.m. on the 15th, and it should be a one-day closure to do needed repairs. And as the mayor was speaking of before, with the 206 closure starting July 6th, the roadway will be closed for the next 4 months for the replacement of the two bridges crossing the Stony Brook. Engineering and the police, as indicated, have been working closely with NJDOT to address a number of gaps in the traffic control devices, and just monitoring the situation to ensure that we make any requested modifications to ensure safety of our residents. And again, as the mayor, I'd like to thank both engineering, Sergeant Murray for his dedicated time and work on the detour situation, Public Works, and particularly Chris Torres for their dedication and the work they did in terms of helping out with the mobilization and additional items needed for the closure. And since the closure, the police have reported that 16 trucks have been stopped, 13 were issued summonses. Those of the 9 summonses in the first 2 days of the closure. And one of the things that the truckers have been telling us that they're going that way because of GPS, so we've contacted NJDOT and Viacom and AAA to spread the word of the closure to ensure that we get the truck drivers on the appropriate detour routes. The other issue that I wanted to report back to council was the dispatch RFPs are being prepared. They'll be completed this week and will be advertised early next week to begin the process for the dispatch RFP. That's it.
Great, thank you.
Hey, Mayor, I have a question. I thought the waxwood issue would be on the agenda this week. When can we expect that? I have residents asking about that.
Yes, the waxwood will be on for August, I believe it's the 21st.
August
There
21st?
was a conflict with we wanted to ensure that the developer was here. There was a conflict, and I believe like the attorney was out of the country at this time.
Are there any other staff reports? Nope. Okay. So we'll move on to our ordinance public hearings for this evening. The first is 2017-38, bond ordinance providing for various improvements to the library in and by Princeton in the county of Mercer, New Jersey, appropriating $275,000 therefore. Okay. Yep, and authorizing the issuance of $261,500 bonds or notes of Princeton to finance part of the cost thereof. And Mr. Miller has just informed me he's going to be recusing on this ordinance because his wife is sits on the library board. So I would like, if there are any questions from council before we open up the public hearing? Seeing none, I will open up the public hearing on this ordinance. Would anybody like to speak to it? Right, seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council. Is there any further discussion, or is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved.
No. Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Liverman and seconded by Ms. Howard. Any further discussion?
Yes, I voted against this in the introduction of the ordinance, and we need all 4 votes for this to pass. I certainly don't want to hold up the rest of the work, but I do want to, I've had a private conversation with Brett Bonfield, the library director, and I will vote for this with some reluctance tonight. I don't think we've had the appropriate discussions really that ought to take place about surveillance, either at the library and other places. And the library has been a vocal supporter of privacy, frankly. When you go to the library and you use the computers at the library, we have open access to any information that you want to get through the internet, and they've been a big proponent of that and supporter of that in our own library, on the state level, and even nationally. And so I think this is not in keeping with that, but I'll support it to get the other work finished, but I do think it's a mistake.
I thank you for doing that, and I think that the discussion can move forward in regard to privacy. But for now, I think that that's a good way to go.
I mean, I'm quite certain this is going to come back,
Yeah,
and
but
it's
we
going to
could-
cost us money legally, but
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Liverman?
Yes.
Ms. Cramiller?
Yes.
Ms. Butler?
yes.
And the ordinance passes with 4 votes. I'm going to call back in Councilman Miller. And the next ordinance is 2017-47, an ordinance by Princeton authorizing the acquisition of the Franklin Avenue parking lot, Block 21.04, Lot 27, tax map of Princeton pursuant to NJSA 40A 12-3 accept, and actually I started reading it before I realized I'm going to be recusing myself on this ordinance.
Okay, well.
So I'm going to,
And I will as well, just
I'm
let
going to
the
turn the
record reflect.
gavel over
Thank you,
to
because
Okay.
Ms. Kremler here, just in case you need it.
Are there any questions about the ordinance?
Need to finish reading
Oh.
it for the purposes of...
Which we're, okay, should I read the whole? Well, we're acquiring Block 21.04, Lot 27, tax map of Princeton pursuant to NJSA 40A:3-3 et sec.
Yeah, I just want to say that the reason why they accuse themselves, in case the public may not know, but the mayor's husband, I guess, just works at the university, and Councilwoman Howard is a professor at the university.
It's a conflict of interest
Yes.
with the university,
Yes.
and we're
Right.
purchasing the
That's what-
property
Yes.
from the university.
Just so you know
Right,
why,
we're-
for the public, why they,
Or they're donating,
why they-
they're
yeah.
giving it to us.
yes,
Well,
Right,
it calls it an acquisition.
Oh, it
I mean,
does. You're acquiring
I guess
it.
we're not buying
yes.
right.
assuming responsibility.
Is there any public discussion on this? Any council discussion?
No,
I take a,
Oh.
I make a motion,
all in favor?
aye.
No.
Oh, sorry, you're right.
Can you call the roll?
Mr. Liverman,
Yes.
Mr. Miller. Yes. Ms. Kremiller,
Yes.
Ms. Butler.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. So Liz can come back in, and Heather, come back in.
And just to tie this off so everyone understands, this property is being conveyed to the municipality by the university under a multi-year agreement with the university.
Right, and
Or-
we were waiting for the completion of the, or the essential, most of the completion of the housing on Route 206, because I think the university was using it for parking. So now that they're not, it's time for us to take it over. Okay, we're ready for you.
We voted, yeah.
Okay, the next ordinance is 2017-48, an ordinance by Princeton authorizing contribution from the Princeton Affordable Housing Trust Fund to partially reimburse Community Options for its acquisition of real property known as 24 Duran Avenue and designated as Lot 20 in Block 7308 on the Princeton Municipal Tax Map, and/or fund its renovation and creation of a group home project in consideration of Community Options Incorporated implementing affordable housing restrictions on the property so as to provide Princeton with affordable housing credits towards Princeton's fair share affordable housing obligation. And before we open up the public hearing, I wanted to see if there were any questions from council on this ordinance.
I just want to make a brief comment. I have been called or asked by a few neighbors in the neighborhood in regard to the purchasing of 24 Duran Avenue. Basically, what type of residents or people will live in the homes and so forth. And these will be 4 bedrooms for people that are basically developmentally challenged or disabled, with a care provider in the dwelling 24 hours a day. They will change, I guess, 8-hour times or 12-hour times. And we have these so-called group homes throughout Princeton now, and they have been a remarkable contribution to the town of Princeton. So I try to explain to all the phone calls that I've received and people in the neighborhood that this is a plus and not a minus for this neighborhood. Nowadays with the purchasing of homes and tearing them down and building mansions and various things that are going on, to see something preserved in this fashion and to have something as caring and loving taking place is an honor and a privilege for the town of Princeton. I just want to say that.
Ms. Howard?
I'm not sure I can say it any better than that, but I'll just add two thoughts that I think that's right. These are people, this is part of our commitment to both affordable housing and inclusive affordable housing. And these are members of our community. Sometimes they're the adult children of people in our community who cannot care for themselves, but who can contribute to our community. And we have evolved a lot over the last 50 years in our understanding about how people with developmental challenges can live in community settings. And I'm excited that we found another opportunity here on Durand to do that in a way that will really contribute. So.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to open up the public hearing on this ordinance, if anybody would like to speak to it.
Hi, I'm Megan Mitchell. I live at 49 Clearview Avenue, which is directly behind the 24 Durand. And my problem is not with what's going to happen. It's with the process that was or was not, how it was handled. The neighborhood was not informed. Neighbors are informed when someone wants to add a garage. And to change a single-family home into a 4-unit dwelling seems to be, to me, something that the neighborhood, the surrounding people in the community should have been made aware of and given the opportunity to speak to. I know that there is a lot of pressure on the town to provide affordable housing units, and this sort of hits a lot of the check marks for good affordable housing, inclusive affordable housing. But the way that it was handled seems very secretive and not in the spirit with which everything else seems to be handled, where we all get a chance to know what's going on. So I wanted to oppose the process and let it be known that this is not an acceptable process for someone changing something into a condo or changing it into a duplex. There are all kinds of requirements that have to be met. Also, looking online at the Community Options website does not seem as great as it's being painted. A lot of the employees of Community Options voice a lot of complaints on their website. People who have had their grown children in these homes have complained about their kids getting evicted, about the lack of attention, the lack of care in the homes. So it's not as perfect in sunshine and roses as it seems, and I wanted to voice that because I don't think that this process or this company were thoroughly vetted we weren't given the opportunity to vet it as a member of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess I want to respond directly to your comments before we hear from more folks. So this is the process that we follow always with these projects, and it's not the way that the individuals will be living in this home. They're going to be living essentially as a family. It's not being rezoned as a 4-unit facility. They're living together as a family, and when we have our in our zoning, we don't specify, we don't define what a family is. And so it's not like if for whatever reason the house gets sold to another group that it's 4 separate units in this home. It remains a residence. So I just want to make sure that part was.
So if I can help, so there's just 4 bedrooms, there's 1 kitchen, and there's probably 2 bathrooms.
I thought it's only a 2-bedroom home
Well,
right now.
I think it's a 3-bedroom home now at the current moment.
So
That-
where is there is going to be that expansion?
I believe there may be an expansion of
Right, so
1
I think
bedroom.
there's only 1 bathroom. Are there 2?
No, I think usually and usually in the homes that we have now with 4 bedrooms, there's usually 2 bathrooms with the 4 bedrooms.
But any change to the home would have to go through a normal
Zoning,
the normal
the whole
zoning
changes.
process.
Yeah.
In other words, you're going to be building to expand, it's not going to be staying as is.
As could
That's-
have happened if it was sold to anyone, any family. In fact,
Can
it
add a
it
room.
will have to comply with the
Right now,
zoning.
it's not a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom. No.
No, I think it's a 3-bedroom, if I'm not mistaken, 3-bedroom, 1 bath.
But it would still need to go through, it would have to go through the normal process that any other home would have to go through. The other thing, Community Options, the organization, is a neighbor. They're about a block up the street from us. They operate another home in town for developmentally disabled adults.
Which is around the corner from you at the present moment.
That's been very successful, and I certainly
hasn't
have
been any
not heard
problems.
any
There hasn't
complaints
been
about
any
it at all.
problems
So, it is an organization that has homes in homes in a lot of communities, but I just want to make sure that when people testify here that, there's a lot of stuff said about all of us on the internet, and I just, it is part of the public record when it's said here, and so I think I want to hear from people's personal experiences for things that go in the public record. And I think that we can look to the experiences here in Princeton. Yeah, but you have to do it at the microphone, and then I just want to open it up for everybody else.
You said it's one family, but I think there are 4 leases, and there are 4 affordable housing credits being given to the town so it's being treated like there are 4 different tenants.
But it doesn't stay with the home that way. So it's not like it's being rezoned as, I don't know if our attorney can help me here. It's not like converting it into whatever a 4-unit apartment would be. I guess that's what it's called.
Right, Mayor, functionally, it remains a single-family residence, which is what it's zoned for. The COA credits, that's because for these types of facilities, you receive credit by the bedroom. So if it's going to have 4 bedrooms, you get 4 credits. But functionally, under zoning law, it will be treated like a single-family residence, regardless of the number of bedrooms, as opposed to a multifamily.
Okay, thank you. And the public hearing is still open. If anybody else would, you have to go to the microphone. You have to use the microphone, or it won't be recorded in the minutes. And if you could please state your name too for the record.
It's Ruth Kopliner, and I'm 19 Duran Avenue. Have any of you been through that house across the street, 24? And checked it out that say that there definitely are 4 bedrooms and things? I don't think there's 4 bedrooms in there. There's never been 4 bedrooms. There were 2 baths in that house.
There's 3 bedrooms and 1 bath
2
now.
little bedrooms.
There's 3 bedrooms and 1 bath now. It's in the house as we speak. They will probably add 1 bedroom and 1 bath, and that will go through the regular zoning ordinances. But there's 3 bedrooms. It was sold as 3 bedrooms and 1 bath.
If they don't have enough bedrooms and things, are you going to consider enlarging the house?
That will go through the zoning board. So zoning and the planning, or just zoning? Zoning.
If you don't have the space that you need, are you going to consider enlarging the house then? Doing renovations on it?
If they need, my understanding is they plan to expand. If they need a variance, they'll have to go before the zoning board, but they may not even be planning to. They may be, as we've seen with tear downs, there's a lot you can do under existing, this is what we've been talking about, under existing zoning laws where you don't even need a variance. So they will need a variance, in which case it'll go through the zoning board, or they may be able to do it under the existing.
But we're leaving those decisions up to community options. What we're doing is we're saying, yes, we think this is a good use of affordable housing funds, and community options is going to take it from there. So they'll decide, they might reconfigure the space or get a zoning variance. We don't know, because we're handing it over to community options.
They've torn so many houses already on our street and put up $1 million houses.
They're not going to do that.
Okay, just checking.
No, honestly, this is a better neighborhood stabilizer than it would have been if someone else would have bought it, tore the house down, and put up a $1.5 million home in your neighborhood.
I think one more person that tears a house down on that street, you're going to lose a lot of residents
I know.
on that street.
I know.
So, and moving out of town besides. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ida Bormentar. I'm the current executive director for the Mercer County Community Options. So I'm glad to be here today just to kind of address some of the issues and concerns. I know you went online and some of the things that you've seen by former employees, like Liz said, you can go online and read anything about any one of us. I can let you know Community Options is a well-known organization. We were incorporated in 1989. Been providing
I just
housing.
asked that you address the
I'm
council
sorry.
and not anybody.
Been providing housing and employment supports for people that have disability. We have about 21 group homes in Mercer County. And I can tell you that when our homes are open, we take good care of it. We like to treat our home as if it's a family setting. There's not going to be where people are getting evicted and whatnot. We treat all of our individuals with respect. So my purpose of being here is just to introduce myself and to the neighbors. You know, if you have any issues and concerns, I'm located right at 305 on Witherspoon Street. I'm always involved. You can more than welcome reach out to me. I can leave my number right now, which is 609-209-8229, or you can reach me at ida.bormentar@comop.org. with any issues and concerns. Before we open a home, we will have an in-house, an open house for neighbors just to come out to do a walkthrough of the house. Some of the issues and concerns concerning the current space that we do have, it's a 3-bedroom house with 1 bathroom. We are expanding to add an additional room in the bathroom. So it's going to be a 4-bedroom with 2 baths. Okay. Any other issues and concerns?
My name is Erica Mako, and I live at 13 Duran, and I do have a child with autism. First, I'd like to say that before the meeting, I did go over to Community Options to introduce myself to Miss Ida and to speak to her because there were a lot of concerns going around the street. And I wanted to address the concerns by meeting her and sitting with her and asking her the questions that everybody had, and of course being familiar with group homes. My son is 17, so although he'll be with me for quite a few more years, I'm aware of what goes on with group homes and have a very positive outlook on them. She never got back to me, and this is before July 4th, so sometime last week. I also know that it's not really the municipality that is responsible so much for the group home, aside from treating it as a single-family home, but it's the state that's going to be more responsible for what goes on in the group home. And that's what I did try to express to my neighbors. So 4-bedroom, fine, expand the 1-bedroom, but if the state is who's going to be there checking to make sure that all the rules and regulations are going to be taking care of everything, then I don't think we really have too much to be worried about, because they're the ones who will come in and close down the group home if it's not going to be run the way it's supposed to be run down. And as the mom of a child who eventually may be living in a group home, my eyes are open. That's all.
Thank you.
I apologize. You came to the office. I was made aware about it. Unfortunately, I was away on vacation, so I apologize about that. We are a licensed group home. As I indicated before, we have 21 group homes in Mercer County. All of our homes right now is fully licensed. We are licensed annually, and as indicated, if the state, we are mandated through DDD, and they come out on an annual basis and keep track of our books and make sure everything is going accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just say also to the neighbors that are here, if there are issues that you see and you're not getting anywhere, I mean, you can definitely contact your council members. If there's anything that you see at all that's not where it should be or things that are not how they should be, please feel free. Call me or anybody on council and let us know, and we'll be your advocate. But I just can't see anything going wrong here. I don't see it at all. These are things that are occurring more and more. Group homes are more and more, and they're really the best way to go for the person. And I know the young lady that mentioned her child with autism. I know adults that have autism that are in these group homes, and it's the best care for them.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak?
I'm Paulette Sears. I live at 18 Duran. I just want to be sure that what kind of oversight is going on for the property at this moment. There's garbage out, grass growing. It's looking a little neglected. So who's taking ownership and supervision of that piece of land right now?
I don't know if the sale has gone through. Yeah, I don't know.
Someone has to be responsible.
We can find out.
Well, we could probably send DPW out to.
Yeah.
I mean, there has been trash was out there, cans, bottles, grass.
All right, we'll
Figure it out and send someone out to take a look.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, and I would just express my interest in having the management of the home properly supervised, and I'm given to know that there will be appropriate supervision, and we do have children on the block. We have a lot of young people, and I want to know that I'm living in a safe neighborhood, and I certainly support the idea of having a facility for people with disabilities. But I'm a single person, I live alone, and I want to know that I can be safe in my neighborhood. That's important to me.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak as part of the public hearing? Okay.
Just to reassure about the supervision, we do provide 24-hour supervision, and we have rotating staff. There's going to be 2 staff on per shift.
I would just add the former borough entered into a partnership with Community Options back in 09 or 10, and really we've been pleased with the relationship and partnership. It's been fine.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure I had one last call of anybody who'd like to speak before I close the public hearing. Okay, I'll close the public hearing, and I would say that I think it would be useful at some point to have a meeting with the neighbors and Community Option, and if that's something I can help facilitate or the municipality can help facilitate, we're happy to do that. And maybe a couple meetings would be good to have one now if there's still a lot of questions, and then to do one closer to when you're ready to open up. But I'd be happy to do that. So if there's a neighborhood contact, if maybe you can give are you guys all friends in your neighborhood? Do you have ways to reach each other? Okay, if so, then maybe among the 4 of you who are here, you can leave a contact with Ms. Williams, the clerk, and then we can help put together a meeting. Okay, are there any other comments on this ordinance or discussion?
I'll move it.
A motion?
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Howard and seconded by Mr. Miller. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Liverman?
Yes.
Mr. Miller? Ms. Crummiller?
Yes.
Ms. Butler?
Yes.
And the ordinance passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody, for coming out for that. Next is 2017-49, ordinance of the mayor and council of Princeton concerning salaries and compensation of certain personnel of the municipality of Princeton. Are there any questions from council before we open up the public hearing on this ordinance? Seeing none, I will open up the public hearing. Is there anybody who'd like to speak to this ordinance? Yep, please come on up.
Kip Cherry, 24 Dempsey. I'd like to suggest that you put this off because I'm very concerned about the costs to the town that are coming upon us related to affordable housing. I don't feel we have a good understanding of what the costs are going to be to the town, and I hate to add another expense across the board like this. I think that you all have been very gracious. I understand that you've given 1.5% increase for the last 3 years, or for the other 2 years, and then this will be the third year, which I think is actually above inflation for the first 2 years. And I'm just really concerned about the effect of the affordable housing determination and what those effects are going to be on all of the taxpayers. So that would be my recommendation for you to put it off. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak on this ordinance? Okay, seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and bring the discussion back to council. Ms. Butler, did you?
I'd like to address that comment.
Thanks.
I'd like to address that comment. We do have our affordable housing obligation. We'll find out about that shortly, and it's possible that it will be significant, and there will be costs to the taxpayers. I guess I take issue with the idea that we should try to balance this on the backs of our employees. We have a really stellar staff and employees who work very hard. A 1.5% increase is not significant. We have really towed the line on that. Most of their increase will probably go to health care. We have a number of our employees, if there's anything to object to, it's that a lot of the increase will go to people on the higher end of the scale, but we have a lot of employees who are laborers who are working for pretty low wages, and it really, 1.5% does not add up to be very much over the course of the year. This is retroactive. This will go back to the beginning of 2017. And I support wholeheartedly a 1.5% increase. I hear your concerns, but I don't think we can sort of pay for our affordable housing on the backs of our employees.
And can I just add, I think that Councilwoman Butler said it best. I also want to say that we have a strong talent pool, and 1.5% is just showing how much that we appreciate what they're doing. People are leaving municipal jobs, believe it or not, all the time, and we're trying to retain the talent that we have in this town, which is unbelievable. So I agree with Councilman Butler 100% that the 1.5 should not in any way be tied in any other item that we're working on. Affordable housing, open space, anything that we're working on should not be, the 1.5 should not be tied to that when it comes to keeping a strong talent pool.
All right. Is there a motion?
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Ms. Krummeller and seconded by Mr. Liverman. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Liverman?
Yes.
Mr. Miller? Yes. Ms. Krummeller?
Yes.
Ms. Butler?
Yes.
And the ordinance passes unanimously. Next, we come to resolutions. The first resolution is 17209, which is the companion to the ordinance we just passed, which is the resolution authorizing 2017 salaries. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Ms. Krummeller. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution passes unanimously. Next is 17-2010, resolution in support of Route 1 Penns Neck 8-lane NJDOT consensus alternative plan. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Liverman and seconded by Ms. Krummeller, and I can give a bit of background on this. This will seem somewhat familiar to folks from about 4 or 5 years ago when this first came to council, back when the DOT commissioner was Jim Simpson, who was living in Princeton at the time and recognized the traffic problems on Route 1 and the impact that was having to our regional economy. He tried very hard to get some improvements done on Route 1 during his tenure, but there was not enough money in the state fund. Next came, I think I'm getting all the commissioners here, next came Jamie Foxx, who had it as his mission to get the TTF approved. He was unfortunately not successful. There were continuing efforts to get this, get some improvements on Route 1, at least on the list of improvements that might be made, but nothing was going anywhere because there was no funding for any road projects. Now that the TTF has been approved, this project is alive again, and what the DOT is looking for is consensus for this plan, which is still just a like a concept plan. Thank you. And they want to know that there's general support for it in the region before they move forward with it, because there's certainly other regions in the state that would like to be bumped up higher on the list than we are. So essentially what this would do, it would add a travel lane in each direction on Route 1 between Harrison Street and Alexander. It would also extend the queuing line before you enter the jug handle turns. We've seen how that can actually improve traffic flow pretty significantly on Harrison Street, where that was done there. On Harrison, the emergency vehicles will continue to have the ability to override the light, and for those especially going to the hospital on Harrison. In the resolution, the one change we're asking for is to put in some better accommodations for bicyclists. This plan for Route 1 is primarily to improve the north-south flow. And I think even DOT would admit that it does not address another problem on Route 1, which is the east-west crossing. That's intended to be a phase 2 and potentially even more expensive project than this one is. This is a fairly expensive project because they have to move all of the utility poles to widen to accomplish the widening. So I don't know if there's any further questions from
I have a question.
council.
In the meetings on this, you've been attending meetings on this, and has Plainsboro, the hospital, been represented? Do we anticipate that this will slow down our ability to get to the hospital in a timely fashion? Anybody from Princeton?
Yes, so Plainsboro has been represented, and the plan is supposed to either improve or at least keep the current
do no harm
or help improve that access.
I guess I'm just wondering if they improve the north-south, whether people will be waiting longer at Harrison, which would, if you're trying to get to the hospital, you may be delayed longer.
I don't think so, because it's controlled by the lights and like I said, the emergency.
So the emergency
vehicles can get you there, and the rest they've done some modeling of making sure that the intersections, they give them all a letter grade that they're being improved through this. It's not the ultimate solution for the east-west, especially where on Washington, where you're crossing from Princeton into West Windsor. I think everybody recognizes that's still an issue. This should help a little bit because they're making the roundabout larger, and it should be less confusing than it is right now. But it's still, I don't think it's what DOT is considering their ultimate solution for the east-west.
And is everyone else, all these other communities have signed on? Are we the last, or where are we?
Yes, Plainsboro signed on first. I read in the paper that West Windsor had meetings about it, and I actually can't remember if they, at the end of those meetings, if they were taking formal action or not, but I know that there's been support there. I know West Windsor is particularly interested in the east-west piece of it, but I think they understand the north-south is also important to address.
So, Mayor, thanks for that little bit of history, because it does feel like we've been grappling with this for a long time and been talking about it, and then some of it, the financing problems at the state level, sort of, were significant roadblocks, and now those are out of the way. We want to make sure we're getting in the queue, that we don't miss opportunities now that there's finally some transportation funding flowing as a result of the gas tax increase. But can you just, so I think this is a good idea, but can you just say more? I heard you mention, but maybe just say more about, even if we're not addressing the east-west now, can we at least plant a flag in on the bike issues? Because, I mean, it really is, I mean, we saw that, well, obviously we've seen that on Washington Road, and so what exactly can we do on the bike? Yeah.
Right, so that's part of the resolution is language in there encouraging them to make that part of this plan. Ms. Stockton and I have had some conversations with DOT, and one of the ideas, if there's a way to potentially cantilever off of the bridge that the Dinky now takes, and so you could potentially, because the complications are like, how do you get across, and maybe it's not best to try to get across where the cars are going, but to use another bridge that's in existence. So that's one idea, and then to work with West Windsor to make sure there's through connections on both sides. But that's definitely part of the conversations. I know Princeton University is also a ally on this issue, and I think can potentially be helpful.
Well, right, they announced in their plans they're intending to build a bridge across Lake Carnegie, right? So that would serve some of the same east-west traffic from a pedestrian and bicycle standpoint.
Since the death of the Penns Neck bypass, there have been about 4 or 5 proposals by DOT, all of which are aimed at improving the north-south flow of traffic on Route 1. And this one addresses a particular point of traffic congestion that's between Alexander and Washington, or north of Washington and slightly south of Alexander, and should alleviate some of the congestion that we see there. But I think, as the mayor has carefully pointed out, it's not intended to solve the east-west problem, nor the crossing problem, and that, as far as DOT is concerned, is much off in the future. I don't think it's likely that we're going to see DOT addressing that in the near term at all.
Ms. Cromiller?
Well, it does seem to me like this plan is going to improve the Harrison Street intersection and make it easier to turn on it, because of the addition of the jug handle turn is going to, I think it's going to prevent it's going to alleviate the backup.
Correct.
So I think in that, I agree with what everybody's saying, but I feel pretty optimistic that it'll actually help the Harrison Street. I don't know about the Washington Street east-west.
Well, extending the jug handle will alleviate the problem of cars backing up on Route 1.
No, I think it will alleviate them backing up on Harrison, because they're going to be more able to flow. They can cross, and there's more space for them to go with each light change. There's more place, they can go across through the light. So it'll improve the flow of cars.
I agree with you on that, but I think that the major point of congestion is on Route 1, and extending the jug handle entrance to Harrison Street will alleviate some of the backup on Route 1, backup of cars that are occupying a travel lane waiting to get into the jug handle.
Right.
Okay, so Is there any further comment before? Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the resolution passes unanimously. And for anybody who wants to see the proposal, it's up on the website as part of tonight's agenda, and you can see the concept plan drawings there. Next is Resolution 17-211, resolution authorizing the award of a contract for cleaning services for various buildings within the Municipality of Princeton for 2017 and 2018 to CNS Cleaning Company Incorporated for the bid amount of $134,460. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Mr. Miller. Is there a second?
Second.
And seconded by Ms. Krummeller. I know we have some more people here tonight who might want to speak to this, but I want to start at council if there's any questions or comments. No. Okay. So okay, Mr. Miller.
You know, I've had experience in the business world, in the private sector. And if you look at a facility that you bring in the private sector customers into, one of the first impressions that a customer forms of the facility is what they see in the halls, what they see in the public spaces in the facility, the bathrooms, the cafeterias. And are they clean? Are they well taken care of? And are they well maintained? And in our case, our customers are the public. And when the public comes into this facility and they see that the facility is not well maintained, that the bathrooms are not clean, then they form an impression, a first impression, that carries over to what they think of what goes on in the building. And I realize that is a difficult thing to accept, because all of us up here, all 7 of us, understand fully what we are doing by replacing the current contractor and the current contractor's staff with another organization. But I think from the standpoint of serving our customers, who are the public that come into this building, we have to take care of the facility and to make certain that the facility presents its best face to our customers when they come in and use the facility. So I think we all feel sorry about the outcome of this, but I think that from the standpoint of providing the kind of facility that creates the impression that we want to create with the residents of this town, who are our customers and our clients, we're doing what we have to do.
All right. Is there anybody else on council who'd like to speak before we open it up? Okay, so I know there were a couple of sign-ups before the meeting, so I'd like to first call up Dan Rappaport.
Dan Rappaport, 300 Bun Drive. It's too late to talk about Route 1 also, right?
Yeah, I didn't know you wanted to speak to that, sorry.
Oh, well, you won't know the full story. About half an hour after I read this story, I started tearing up, and it started occurring to me about how it seemed like you're more concerned about saving someone who lives on Millionaires Road $10 on their property taxes quarterly or whatever. And I just thought that you guys are heartless and you're talking about the lives of special needs people whose jobs you're going to eliminate, so these people can't pursue the American dream like the rest of us, and these people have a limit on how much money they're allowed to make in a year. I guess it's between 12,000 and 13,000 right now, so they probably work a 20-hour shift, so that would be maybe $6,000 in a year. And I don't understand how you can be this way, because you might save enough money for 6 people's positions, 36,000 divided by 6,000. So I just feel so awful about the situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Cook?
Steve Cook, Mercer. We're the company that actually manages the subcontract for the access. I actually had different remarks until I heard the councilman speak. Because up to this point, everything was about money. And the bid that you have is low bid. However, Councilman, I give you credit for at least stating the truth, that it's the quality of service is the reason why you are eliminating 4 people with developmental disabilities. I felt comfortable last time I was here, I made the case for people with disabilities. It's my job. The unemployment rate for people with developmental disabilities and all disabilities is 84%. You did a wonderful thing tonight, and I give you accolades for bringing 4 people into your community in a group home. Great job, and I mean that sincerely. But they need jobs too. So I did put out there the opportunity that if Ark Mercer is responsible for souring the relationship, we'd step aside, but give a chance for another vendor to come in and maybe make it work. Doesn't have to be permanent, could be month to month. In the end, I can't argue with economics, but I can argue with whether the buildings are clean. Because we did debate that, and we had independent reports from Access that are right here that said the buildings were clean. They may not be perfect, but they were clean to industry standards. So on behalf of the workers, I have to stand in objection to the opinion that the buildings weren't clean. I can't argue with finances, but I can argue the buildings were clean independently. So on behalf of the workers, I think they did a great job. On behalf of the Ark Mercer, if we didn't manage the relationship correctly with your team, I'll take the responsibility for that. But my purpose for coming to you was to take a look at other options between the last meeting and this one to see if there's another vendor or another way. If it's economics, so be it. But if it's the cleanliness of the building, those 4 people you're going to move into that group home need a job. And at 85% unemployment rate, few jobs offer federal prevailing wage like this job does for people with disabilities. That's all I care about, is that those 4 people and other people get an opportunity. So if in any way anything that I say to you offends you, I apologize. But these folks with disabilities have a tough way to find a home. You already heard objections, and again, you guys did an amazing job moving that forward, but they do need jobs. We are willing to step aside, let someone else do it. We can lower the cost, reboot the relationship with another agency. I'd love to see that happen. If not, I certainly hope that from this process, somewhere along the line, you guys will recognize government does help play a role in sparking employment for people with disabilities. So with that, I thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Excuse me, can I say, Steve, I don't know if we kind of mentioned this, but the new contractor would be willing to take the resumes, from what I heard, applications of the 4 people that you have mentioned. I don't think that it's just a situation where anyone is throwing anybody to the curb, as it seems to be painted here. So I don't know if the people will be hired, but they're more than welcome to apply. They've stated that.
I appreciate that, and that's a kind gesture. Unfortunately, the supports, our contract's a lot higher than one you're getting. You're saving a lot of money into this contract. I just want this to be clear, I lose money on this contract. I don't make money And we paid the extra money to try to do a better job because the consumers were important. I don't know if they'd be successful in an environment without supports, but I'll say this. We will certainly pass that along, and I appreciate the sentiment, so thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. DeShield, did you want to weigh in?
The only comment that I did want to make was, in terms of the process, we worked and kind of looked at a number of alternatives for us in terms of the different alternatives for cleaning services, and the bid, going out for bid for another contractor, we believe is the most appropriate and recommended to council to move forward with the bid that was selected this evening to provide those services. I would go into more detail at this point, but I think it's just inappropriate to talk about the quality of service. But I think this council should move forward with the current bid.
Okay, thanks. Ms. Krummeller?
Well, right. I feel it's inappropriate to talk about the quality of service too, but I do feel that I want the public to know that that was the issue. I think from what I heard, our staff worked very hard for a number of years to try to make the situation work, and I know it was not the money that prompted us to change the situation. It was actually the quality of service. I hate saying that because I don't think it's really appropriate to talk about things like that in public, but since it was brought up, I just wanted to kind of clear the record.
I will say is we did work hard throughout this process, which began in terms of working through this process in 2016, where we had a number of meetings with trying to make this work, over 7 different meetings to make this work. So there was a process in place.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Okay, I think there's a motion and a second on the table already. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution passes unanimously. Thank you very much, everybody who came out for this. And we hear you. I
Nobody's
don't think
happy
that
about it.
was a very happy vote for anybody. So we appreciate you coming out, and we hear you. Next, we come to the consent agenda, which contains items of a routine nature passed by single vote. Are there any items on the consent agenda anybody would like removed?
I make a motion that we vote as a block on the consent agenda.
Trishka, item number 6, I think you've in the past considered that ministerial, the Hip and McGee, but I just wanted to clarify that for the record.
Yeah, I think you routinely have things like releases of performance and maintenance guarantees on your agenda, and we've never asked you to step down.
Great, thank you. Then I would support adopting in block.
Okay, so it's been moved by Mr. Liverman and seconded by Ms. Howard. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. And is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Ms. Krummeller. All in favor?
Aye.